Howdy, people! It's your boy, Alternative Voice, yet again. I'm pretty sure that you noticed that when you clicked on this video on the title below that I wrote Repeal the Second Amendment. And those of you that know me, you probably may have thought that I've gone totally off my rocker and have done a 180-degree turnaround. That's not the case. I admit I used a provocative title. I did it to get your attention. I am going to role play here as a anti-gunner who wants to go into politics and enact some strict gun laws and repeal the Second Amendment. There are people that want to repeal the Second Amendment, and a lot of them. They have come out and said it. And don't take my word for it. Go and look on Google or Bing yourself. Just type in repeal the Second Amendment and you'll find a bunch of shit. Anyway, moving on. My strategy would be, obviously the ultimate goal to repeal the Second Amendment. But as with any chess game, you can't just go for the king. Not even Bobby Fischer could do that. You have to knock down some of the defenses. How do you do that? You go after, obviously, military-style weapons. And let's be honest here, ARs, AKs, SKSs, and M1As, among others, are military-style weapons. They are not for hunting. You can use them for hunting, sure, but that is not what they're intended for. If you believe that, then you believe that glass pipes were made for tobacco. They weren't made for tobacco. They were made for cannabis and other things. And that being said, you can look up on my other videos on why I think that the public needs weapons like that. But with moving on is I would first go after those weapons. Try to create magazine limits. Knock them down slowly but surely. First you impose limits like no magazines that can hold more than like 15 rounds. And then you go for 10 rounds. Then you go for 5 rounds. And another strategy is to simply ban semi-automatic weapons, so nobody can get anything that's semi-automatic, let alone fully automatic. Reduce them down to bolt action and pump action weapons. And not only that, people got to obviously go back to using revolvers, as semi-automatic handguns would also be banned. That being said, and moving on with that, I would try to find ways to get at body armor. And because body armor is becoming an increasingly important thing in a gunfight these days, and increasingly relevant. I would try to knock that down by saying certain people can't possess it, like they've done with like felons, people convicted of domestic violence. A lot of those cases are bullshit, by the way. And like say people who are on drugs or on certain types of medications or have mental disorders cannot buy guns or have body armor. Another thing I would try to do, again, I'm just role-playing here as a anti-gunner, is I would I would do it step by step. First, I would come for the quote-unquote assault weapons, assault rifles. Again, AKs, ARs, SKSs, blah, 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 blah. And once those were gone, I would pull up these crime stats, because most murders that involve guns, firearms, whatever you want to call them, are committed with handguns. I would then point out that these things need to be regulated, and magazine limits and all that jazz imposed on them. And then you come for like certain things, like quote unquote, you can say like certain projectiles are just too dangerous to have on the streets, like, armor piercing projectiles, even if they aren't really armor piercing, like green tip .556 or a bronze tip, all that jazz, the enhanced penetrator round. Um, I, and from there you can go to like say like things like soft points and hollow points cause too much damage and should not be in civilian hands. That only law enforcement and military should have these kinds of things. And of course, I would point out that the U.S. spends about $600 to $700 billion on its military every year, and that there's no possible way that a bunch of brave right wing Americans, as Biden would say, could win against the U.S. government, despite the fact that the North Vietnamese and the Taliban already did that. And you know, it's just a you know, there's just so many strategies they're going to try to employ, and I would obviously try to increase like penalties for like firearms breaches and breaches with firearms and all that stuff. Like, if you have a gun, like the safe storage laws, like if your gun's unlocked and you have a kid near it, you're a felon now. And as far as taking guns out of people's hands, the whole felony thing is a really good idea because I mean you can just because anything's a felony. Hell, you can become a felon just by opening up somebody else's mail. I mean, if your loved one is deceased and you open up their mail, that is a felony. That is tampering with the mail. It is a federal offense. And just to show you how low they've lowered the bar. And also another thing I would do is like with the whole grandfather clause. That thing is really your friend because it'll keep a lot of people who already have this kind of stuff quiet and they won't complain because you see they don't really care about other people's rights. A lot of people, unfortunately, they care about their rights, and they only care about something as to how it affects them directly. If it doesn't affect them directly, it's not a problem for a lot of people, unfortunately. And another thing I would do is I would create laws is that guns, saying that guns cannot be passed down and high capacity quote unquote magazines can't be passed down, body armor can't be passed down, all that good stuff. And so those things would have to be turned in or face felony charges, which people are scared of. And it's just what we need to do, those of us who believe in the Second Amendment know that we have many battles to fight and win. We need to go on the offensive. We need to say, every state should be a constitutional carry state. Every state should be a Second Amendment sanctuary. By the way, county Second Amendment sanctuaries don't mean all that much. The sheriff or whoever can still enact a red flag law if he wants. And that brings me up to another point, is I would make the rules for red flag laws become lower and lower and lower. Set the bar as low as it'll go, and then some. Inch it down like this to ease people in the water so it's the frog being boiled. And we as Second Amendment advocates, again, need to go on the attack. We need to demand that every state is a constitutional carry state. We need to demand that red flag laws be repealed. We need to fight for the rights of felons to become gun owners after they've completed their sentence. We need to do just so many things, and we need to demand that bans on high capacity magazines be lifted and things like that. We need to restore the Second Amendment. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed this video. There have been many like it, and there will be more like it from me in the future. It is my hope that you will like, that you will comment, and that you will subscribe. Be good, y'all. Peace. Sic semper tyrannis, Mulan Labe, and don't tread on me. Bye, y'all.